welcome to the latest edition of Buzzing with Barca. So it's me, Kai, and then also Harsh, we're only two today. So we'll start now because we have a lot of topics to cover. So first we'll start on the Alaves game where we dropped again as we drew 1-1. Harsh, what's your thought on the game?
Well, I think as many can agree, the game was just, horrible to watch. Even though in the end we did get an equalizer through a Griezmann goal and we did create multitudes of chances, it was just not good to watch. Our defense was horrible, sloppy passes everywhere, inefficient running, inefficient pressing. It was a disaster. And Koeman, even though he made quick substitutions and he tried to make an impact, subbing off Ansu Fati was just quite, in my opinion, just nonsensical. And also the fact that he was reluctant to actually change the system was concerning. And yeah.
I'd agree with what you said, because essentially what I think is that we're seeing Koeman once again, as you said, reluctant to change his system, and that means that he's doing the same error again. And the problem when you do the same error is that basically dropping the points against Madrid, dropping the points against Sevilla or Getafe is basically useless. Before, I would say that it was okay to drop points because you could say, well, I did an error, but now doing errors is nonsensical if you don't correct them. So I totally agree, and this brings us to our next point and our next topic, which is about Koeman substitutions. So what did you think? What did you think about them? Do you think they actually brought something better?
As I said before, the Ansu Fati sub, Ansu was the only one making chances, who was getting shots on target, who actually pressed the Alaves player to make an error and allow Griezmann to actually get on the score sheet and get the equalizer. But bringing on then Braithwaite and subbing Ansu, who was the only lively player on the pitch, was a mistake because Braithwaite did nothing. All he was there was, he provides some physical presence in the box for, players like Des to put in some crosses, but otherwise he just had one touch and that's all. But I have to give credit to Koeman for bringing on Pedri, Trincao, and Pjanic totally, in my opinion, changed the game. He, removing Busquets and adding Pjanic to the midfield brought life. And I think we mentioned on the last episode of Barca, Buzzing with Barca, was that Pjanic provides us more threat. He provides us with more attacking qualities, while Busquets is just there for composure and control. Pedri as well was brilliant once again. Trincao wasn't the greatest, but he was there to provide the much needed width.
Quite agree with you. I think you've said pretty much everything about Pjanic. What I'd like to add is that we actually saw, as you said, quick changes, which is quite good considering the past of Koeman, who sometimes even brought subs at the 80th minute, which was of course horrible. And also I agree with what you said about Fati, that basically he was the one to be the threat, and especially considering it was his birthday, subbing him out did seem weird and almost as if he had no idea who to sub in a certain sense. But yeah, as you actually mentioned earlier, I'd like to come back to the point that it doesn't matter which subs Koeman does, they won't change the game all that much if there's no change to the system. Because the fact is that we can see that this system is not perfect. No system is really perfect, and we can see that there are a lot of problems defensively, offensively. We saw no with, and even when Trincao came on, and that's later, even then the width was far from enough, which is a problem that Koeman will have to correct soon if he wants to, because I mean, for now, yeah, we're doing draws, which is already not great, but then, especially in the Champions League, when you're gonna face top oppositions like Bayern or other better clubs, you're not gonna run away, considering how low the chances of Alaves were.
Yeah. And another thing I would like to add before we move on to the next topic is De Jong's positioning. How, like, because there's no evidence or there's no suggestion that Longley suffered an injury. So to sub off a central defender for, you know, practically a CDM, even though De Jong has played with Ajax as centre back for a couple of months, a couple of games, to do that, it was shocking kind of to an extent, because you're practically kind of telling Longley that, you know, you're horrendous, that I have to play a midfielder in your position so that we make an impact on the game. What are your thoughts on it?
Actually, what I think happened is that Koeman remembered Longley's recent suspension, concerning the yellow card, concerning the penalty, and I think seeing that Longley had a yellow card, Koeman was just afraid of losing him, and therefore decided quickly to get him out before he actually gets a second yellow card. I think that was the main reason why he actually decided to get on. And the second reason is eventually, I think that Koeman saw that there was a problem in the midfield between Busquets, which then he stepped on for Pjanic, and Frankie, so therefore he decided to move 2-in-1, in the sense that you add another midfielder and you still compensate the defense. I think that's what essentially happened. But of course, I agree that I hope in the future we won't see that type of substitution again. So moving to the next topic, which is about Griezmann. So as we've seen in the last matches against Juventus, Griezmann has been performing better in that center. So what are your thoughts about his performance last match?
Of course, it wasn't a great match for everyone. It wasn't a neat performance by Griezmann. But I guess the most important thing is that we continue to see some, link-up play with Messi, even though it was quite limited and, let's just say, scrappy play. But the fact that Griezmann managed to get a goal, even though he missed, a couple of chances here and there in the first half, the fact that, he had the confidence to get the chance to act quickly and, finish quite well and get the equalizing goal, I feel like even though it's not monumental, it will be, it will build up it will be the stepping stone for Griezmann to kind of build up his confidence again. And I was just happy to see him smile as a player, because he has looked confidence lately. But of course, there's just a lot more work to do with Griezmann and his positioning and play at Barca, because it always looks a bit complicated.
I would agree with what you said, because essentially I feel like Griezmann is really the player that, in a certain sense, when you need a goal and that the whole team is actually not doing well, he actually manages. Because when you think about it, last season he was the one to score the equalizer against Napoli, which in a certain sense I wonder whether that could be more useful, in the sense that there will be probably a lot more games where we will struggle, like against Alaves, and it maybe he could be useful in that sense, maybe, because just like Coutinho, he can shoot, and that is important because we've seen a lot of lack when it comes to the finishing product. And perhaps if he continues like that, and then it depends also on Coutinho, then he could eventually prove to be that one player to get you the goal that you actually need.
Yeah. And I think we also, I forgot about this, but as you mentioned, Griezmann can be a clutch type of player. And, you mentioned his Napoli goal. And I also remember that he scored an offside winner in this match. He had I think it was Pedri and Messi who linked up. It was Pjanic who set Messi up. Messi tried to play Trincao, and
Yes.
Trincao perfectly plays the ball for Griezmann, but Trincao was offside. And it's like the perfect, perfect, let's say, mirror goal of the one against Napoli in the first leg. So yeah, if he had scored that, that would have been incredible. But if it were onside, it would have been incredible. But yeah, just to mention that.
I totally agree. So we'll move on to the next topic, which is one of the biggest topics that has been talked about, which is the bankruptcy scare. So, according to you, what do you think will happen? And are you worried about the situation?
Yeah, I've been worried about this Barcelona's financial situation ever since we made those clumsy deals with, Coutinho, and even like the add-on fees for Dembele. Then we continued to, buy Griezmann. We had to take a 20 million loan for Griezmann as well. That was, I think the first concerning sign for for Barcelona's finances and just economic wealth and health. And COVID has just kind of just added fire to the fuel, let's say. Added fuel to the fire, let's say. It's created more instability for the club. And as Tusquets, I believe, said, and then in a statement, that he said that the players need to either leave or need to agree a salary cut, because otherwise the situation is only going to get worse. I don't think Barcelona will go into bankruptcy, because I think we will somehow find a way, because we're such a big club. But these are worrying times. That the fact that we're mentioning Barcelona and bankruptcy in this day and age, it's just concerning, and it kind of tells you the entire story.
I would agree with what you said, especially when you consider that Barcelona was this one club who really had everything to not be bankrupt. When you think about the fact that Barcelona is the only club to have 2 trebles, when you think about the fact that Barcelona had these players, when you think about that and the numbers of superstars like Coutinho, Griezmann, Messi, well, there, you really wonder what's going on.
Yeah.
And the fact is, most probably, that this bankruptcy scare probably, according to me, existed for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is that it wasn't mentioned. We saw barely months ago Bartomeu claiming that Barcelona was doing economically well,
Yeah.
and we can see that basically that is not the case. Thankfully, I'll link that, even though it's not a topic of today's, is that Font actually mentioned that in his Zoom meeting today, that he's not worried. According to him, we can still manage with the right person to actually get back to an unsustainable economic level. But as you said, I'm pretty sure that there will be sacrifices that will be needed to make. It's now unsure whether the players will be the sacrifice. What will be the sacrifice? For me, what we have to remember of this bankruptcy scare is that at no point we can allow us to go into in hands other than the socios, because obviously I think that's what Barcelona makes so special.
Yeah.
Is that we're not owned privately, and I think that would be really the bottom of the bottom. And that is why, for me, the biggest of the bankruptcy scare would be actually the biggest problem would be to stop owning this club by ourselves.
Yeah, as you said, not being owned by external companies makes Barcelona special. It's that democratic feel and the feel of democracy which makes Barcelona special. And yeah, people think that this bankruptcy scare will just go away, if you just snap your fingers, but it's not that easy. I feel like a lot of sacrifices will be made, will have to be made, as you said. But I feel like we will, get through this rough patch, and hopefully under Victor Font's presidency, because I really hope that he's the right one to lead us through this period of transition and chaos.
Okay, so now we'll transition to the next topic, which is the transfer rumors. As most read, there will be against one rumors about Eric Garcia, who's rumored that the current board would offer around 8 million for the player. So what are your thoughts about it? Should we actually go through these transfers with this transitionary board, or should we just not sign anyone in the winter and go for with another board in the summer for offensive?
I would rather have the new board, new and established board, rather than people like Ramon Planes and all these other technical directors and sporting managers take the decisions, because I feel like the new board will have the actual vision and ability to purchase the right players and purchase them with economic efficiency. For Eric Garcia, I think you mentioned a couple of episodes back on the podcast that even though Eric Garcia comes, we won't be able to get the best out of him because of how Koeman decides to play. Koeman, does not rely or does not like to have as much as of the ball. But Eric Garcia is the player who loves having the ball, who loves to play with the ball, who is better when he is with the ball. But as for his transfer, if it's going to cost a lot of money, if it's going to cost some economic sacrifices and ill-judged decisions, I would go against it. I would wait till the summer.
I'll totally agree with you, because I think that as we've mentioned before, the economic situation is far from the one we want, and I don't think that his transfer should be an actual priority, considering that the stake of ownership of our club is at stake. So for me, I've said it before, but concerning Garcia, for me, the only thing that's actually important is to get that agreement. Get the agreement with him, because he loves the club.
Yeah.
We're going to go for you on the summer. Just wait 6 months.
Yeah.
Because he can perfectly wait 6 months. And we can wait 6 months, because meanwhile we have still Araujo. We cannot forget that. And for me, that is why, as you said, the decisions that especially rely on the future of the club should be taken by the new board.
Yeah, 100%.
So, as we talked about Eric Garcia, we have to talk about Pep, who denied that he would come back to Barcelona, saying that Barcelona was over for him. What are your thoughts about this?
I think he's right, and he said this on countless occasions. People have kind of twisted Victor Font's words in the interview. He did not say that he wanted Pep to come back as a manager. He just said he wanted Pep to come back to Barcelona, whether it be on a permanent basis or just to have some ties to Barcelona, or just to have him as part of Barcelona's future. But that doesn't mean that he's going to be a manager or be on the the touchline. So I thought that people kind of exaggerated and took Font's words out of context. But I feel like maybe if Victor Font does get elected, Xavi and Puyol, maybe even Iniesta in a couple of years do decide to be part of this club and this new project, I feel like Pep would join as well. I don't know what his role would be specifically, but I feel like he would come back to the club he loves. And he has said this on multiple occasions that, he would come back to Barcelona in the future, but not as a manager, maybe as something else. And I hope that happens in the near future.
I'll totally agree. I also think that people did take very out of context these words. And especially I think that people forget that basically, even if, let's admit, Font gets elected and Pep doesn't get the position, he will still have influence. Because inevitably, he's going to stay in contact with his friends, because let's not forget they're humans.
Yeah.
And that means that basically it's very likely that, say, for example, Carlos Puyol or Xavi, or as you said, possibly Iniesta, would ask him, hey Pep, what do you think about this? So I do think that even if he does not get a position, I do think he'd have a sort of influence.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So yeah, we totally hope that he will come back, but that's very unsure. So now we'll talk about another uncertain topic, which is the one of Riqui Alenya. As you know, Riqui was once again, this time, left out of the squad and didn't travel with the team to Alaves. Well, Alenya was called up, but didn't play and didn't warm up. So what's your thought about the two Barcelona gems being left out once again?
Yeah, I think we covered it last episode, how we were disappointed. Riqui not, even making the squad list. And even for Alenya, he has not played a single minute. Riqui at least played, 3 minutes, but 3 minutes is still it's a sham. But yeah, Alenya not even playing a minute this season and being considered as being, on top of the pecking order, above Riqui, I just don't understand. And what I would like to say is that exactly, I would say 4 or 5 months ago, Riqui played the game versus Alaves in the last match day of La Liga, the 19th. Brilliant game. He assisted a few goals. He played a major part in our midfield, and it just showed the world why we have such hope and love for Riqui. And then now, after that time, in the same fixture, he's not called up. He's not doing anything. He's just back home training at Ciutat Esportiva, and it's just sad to see a player of such potential and talent not being incorporated or even given a chance. And the same goes for Alenya. He hasn't got a single chance. And the fact that, you see Busquets performing poorly and even De Jong not being at his best is the time where you use that midfield options to allow and get the best out of your players by allowing others to have a chance and create some competition.
I totally agree, and I think that's very sad. Not only that we saw Riqui getting chances last season, and even chances against clubs that aren't Alaves level, but we actually saw him do well against Atletico, which is quite of a club.
Yeah.
But what I think the worst is that when you look at the preseason, Riqui and Alenya both performed at least decently, to not say well, when given the chance. And that means that Koeman saw them performing in his system, but went like, nah, I'm not playing them.
Yeah.
Which is quite surprising, because if you ask any other manager, he'd surely love to have them. I don't think that there will be currently any top manager who would say, I don't want Riqui. If you give them the option, I'm sure he would get played.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is, for me, it seems as if Koeman just doesn't care. He chose his 15, 16 players, the ones he loves, Pedri, Coutinho, etc., Frankie, Pjanic and Busquets, and just leaves out the rest as if they're goats.
Yes.
Literal goats.
It's kind of like Valverde mentality we saw early on, not playing Riqui, not playing Alenya, not even knowing about Alenya's loan to Betis. It's that type of mentality with Koeman, but just that Koeman is more willing to take risks.
Exactly, I would actually join to that, because the thing is, it doesn't seem as Koeman realizes that he has a great squad. Because if you compare to Valverde or to Setien, they had you could argue that they couldn't rotate sometimes because they didn't have the players. They didn't have the wingers, they didn't have the fullbacks. But for Koeman, you don't have this argument, because he has literally depth in almost every position. The only position he could actually be blamed on is the fact that he doesn't have a 9 and perhaps the left back, and that's
Yeah.
it. Because at the rest, he does have that, which is quite worrying to see, but we'll see later on. So now we'll have to move to the next topic, which is Umtiti finally coming back. According to recent media report, Umtiti is set to come back soon as he's finally back into training. So what are your thoughts about this?
Yeah, we saw a medical report, and Barcelona can't say that official that Umtiti is back in training, or he's at least on the road to recover. And it feels like deja vu that we have seen this again. Umtiti, is he back? Is he not? He's giving interviews saying that Barcelona is my home. I don't see anywhere else. And I don't see myself anywhere else. Lyon, I love Lyon, but I'm not going there. It's like we've seen the same story again and again. And honestly, as much as I would love for prime Umtiti to come back and help us out defensively, it won't happen. I mean, he kind of put his priorities aside. That World Cup where he decided not to get that what's it called, the medical attention and the surgery. The medical attention and surgery. So that has caused this long-term effect of his knee problems. So I don't think we're gonna get the best out of him. I feel like he's just another person in the squad, another high earner in the squad, who is just a body on the pitch. I don't think he's gonna contribute much, but I would love to see him to prove me wrong.
I totally agree with that. With Umtiti, I feel it's like when there's an accident and you can do anything about it. It just feels like the outcome and you're just watching, just as a spectator. Now the thing interesting is, concerning Umtiti, we don't know anything of what Koeman thinks of him. We don't know whether he actually wants him in his squad. We don't know what he's going to do with him. Will he be used eventually to rotate once or twice? Now that's the question, what he will do, but I agree with you that I doubt he'll have any important role, because he's most likely, unfortunately, to probably get injured again. And so probably, for me, the most likely scenario is just seeing him injured again until his contract eventually runs out.
And another thing I would like to add is that, I think reports suggested when Koeman took over that he's forcing Umtiti out, but now he has no other option than to trust him and play him in the team if Umtiti is fit and someone else is missing. And it's just another highlight of how badly this, squad and club has been managed over the years. And it's a shame. It's a shame to see the club in this state, having someone on such a high payroll and, them only doing Instagram photo shoots and being injured. It's just a circus.
I definitely agree. I definitely feel that most of us Barcelona fans don't literally have the words. Just when we hear the name Umtiti, we're just not this again. We most probably are like that. So that brings me now to the next topic, because as you know, we're set to face Dynamo Kiev this Wednesday, who then have 13 players who cannot play as a result of the COVID. So what would be your starting 11?
My starting 11, of course, I'm still not sure how ready Ter Stegen is. I would still go with Neto. I feel like Neto can play and provide, even though he conceded that horrible goal, it was his mistake, along with PK's, but, I feel like starting him would, give him that reassurance, because we still don't know Ter Stegen's recovery. Ter Stegen might start later on in the season, but also might get injured. So we need Neto to have that confidence. I feel like this is a game to help him regain that. As for the back line, Araujo is out, so it's Longley and PK as centre back, Jordi Alba on the left, or maybe in Firpo for rotation. and Dest has to start. I don't want to see any reason for Sergio Roberto to start. He started, I believe, two to three games in a row. I might be wrong, but he started a lot of games.
2 games,
Yeah, and then I would like to see Pjanic, because Pjanic has been performing really well. I would like to rest Frankie and have Alenya. That's my hope and wish to see, but I doubt that will happen. Of course, we have to give Pedri, Griezmann, Ansu, and Dembele is who I would start.
Yeah, so I'll join you with the backline. I think that, as you said, I think Neto overall, he has done pretty well according to our expectations. And I definitely do think that this error that we saw is partly just a huge miscommunication between PK and him.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that you shouldn't judge him over one error. And then for the back line, as you said, I would give Ferber a chance, because let's face it, it's a long time he hasn't played.
Yeah.
So we basically have no idea where he's at right now, because he's not the youngest, but he's still quite young. So with the younger, as we know, we have to play them. Otherwise, you can't really know where they are. You have to track their progress, and the only way to track their progress, well, is to play them. So that's why I'd eventually give that, because we know that if we play Alba too much, he's gonna drop his level. It's not like he's at his top right now. So eventually, I think that's one of the games where you can say you're gonna rest. For the midfield, I'll join you. I definitely think that we should start Pjanic. We've discussed this in the other podcast, the last podcast, that basically Pjanic seems to be the starter for the Champions League game. So I think that's gonna happen again. And as you said, I think that Frankie will start, but I'll personally start Riqui, just because I feel that one of Riqui or Alenya has to play. You can't do it otherwise. And especially that I do believe Frankie does need rest. The first reason is because we're going to have a game against Real Betis, who have been doing quite well recently. And secondly, because we soon have the international break, and it's more than likely to see Frankie play again those 90 minutes matches. So I do think that you should rest him. And then finally, when it comes to the forwards, I'd actually start Ansu, I'd start Dembele as well, I'd rest Messi, and I'd then play Griezmann and then Alenya. Because eventually, I feel that Pedri is great at the moment, sometimes as a super sub. The reason is that basically he offers you a lot of flexibility. And I feel that in these games where the opposition might be strong, because we saw Shakhtar Donetsk doing well against Madrid, let's say, I feel that, for example, he would be the one to really get rid of that block in a certain sense, because he's going to exploit these holes that you need to exploit. So that's why I'd actually have him on second half, because I don't feel you should just line up straight up your first game plan from the very beginning. So that's why. So then we have our match predictions.
And so for me, of course, the just horrendous draw against Alaves, but I feel Dynamo Kiev have, I believe, 13 players which are out from this match due to COVID. So I believe this is the perfect opportunity to get in some goals, get back some confidence. I feel like we have been doing that a lot in Champions League. Usually we are not used to this, but Champions League this season so far has been a place where we have excelled, even though we haven't played amazing 90 minutes each game. We have showed confidence, we have put in some goals, and we have seen talent. And I feel like even in this game, even though it's kind of a mirror game of what Shakhtar had, Shakhtar missed a lot of their first team players, but they went on to beat Real. If we see that, I wouldn't be surprised. But I'm backing for a 3-0 win against Dynamo Kiev.
I feel quite similarly to what you feel, as in, I think that this problem of this team, more than sportive, is actually mental, because you have several players that either lack confidence or really do need a change in their mentality. And I think that includes players like Griezmann, and before I would have said Coutinho, but he's out, so there's no point of saying that. But as well, more than them, if Messi plays, it would be for him the chance to get his goals. Because lately you've been seeing Messi in a sort of weird mood. He doesn't play bad, but his finishing, especially actually since Setien came, has just been horrible. It just seems like you're not getting the same one. So I think that you just need this morale boost, because it's important considering how packed actually our schedule is, to really get this confidence to these players, because we have no clue how the international break will be, how they'll come back. So I feel that it's better to get them their mood before that, and especially before this Real Betis game, which I want to insist on, because I don't think it will be an easy game either. Just like I don't think this game won't be easy either. But I do feel we have this home advantage, and that is why I'll be going for a 3-1 win, because I just feel like we'll get that goal conceded in some way or another. And so then I'll let you start with your monologue.
I think you kind of touched upon it. You started to mention about Messi's confidence and how it seems not even confidence, but it just seems like he has been off. It's not necessarily that he has been playing poorly, but as you mentioned, Setien, as soon as he came, or that start of the year, it was not great for him. His finishing has been off. His attitude has not been as great as we hoped it would, especially with the factors considering that Messi told Bartomeu at the beginning of the year that he wanted to leave, and tension going on. Of course, it's easy to disrupt someone's mood, attitude, and just confidence as well, and desire to actually get some goals and play the matches. But I really hope that Messi gets rest during this game, but I also hope that he comes off the bench and scores a lot, contributes to the game, scores some goals, makes some assists, because he needs that confidence boost. We saw that during the Juventus game, how he plays really well when he feels like it, and when he has the supporting cast that are willing to do the work for him, and not like in the Alaves game where it's only him trying to make some chances. But that's what I had to talk about.
My topic, because I'll finish with the last monologue, and that is about the attacking side of Koeman, because we tend to talk a lot about the defensive issues with Piqué, and sometimes when Roberto plays, and Longley, who hasn't been doing well. But I do think we need to address the attack, because the fact is, yes, we do have brilliant profiles, we have a lot of depth, but I do feel that there's a problem in how Koeman understands even the principle of attack. Because the first thing is that when you look at his subs, almost all of them are attacking subs. You've rarely seen midfield, you've seen midfield for midfield, but usually only to attack. And that is a common error that we shouldn't be seeing, which is to think that more attackers means better attack, which I don't think has translated in any way when you look at the games. I don't think that actually we've been doing well, and that brings you to my main point, which is the quality of chances. Because if you look at the interviews after the matches, Koeman has been saying, we've been getting a lot of chances, and it's as if he feels great. Now the problem is, especially against Alaves, if you look at the quality of chances, which can be calculated with the expected goals XG model, is that these chances were very low. As a kind reminder, our highest chance outside of the goal of Griezmann was about 0.2. Now that's very low, considering that Barcelona are supposed to be one amongst the leaders, and Alaves was basically 15th. which is very worrying
Yeah.
in my sense. And the fact is that it doesn't seem as if Koeman thinks his attack is doing badly. It doesn't feel as if Koeman thinks something is going wrong. And that is because if you look just at the attacking players he puts, you think, oh, wonderful, he puts wonderful players. The problem is that he forgot the midfield, which brings to my main point, which is that you cannot have an attack without a midfield, not at Barcelona at least. Because to have those chances that he likes to have a lot, well, you need someone to generate them. And, well, as you've talked about Messi, he cannot do everything. Somebody has to create something. And that is why, for me, I'm still waiting for Koeman to see a change in the attack, not in the players, but in the mentality in which the team attacks. To see that there's rarely been a goal where we can see, wow, that was a wonderful combination. So I'm really hoping that, especially in the international break, Koeman will reconsider that and hope that, let's say, against teams that are less attacking, because we're facing on the 21st of November Atletico Madrid, that we can actually create something against them.
Because we've struggled against them heavily, and it's been a recurring theme ever since that. We struggle against these ultra defensive teams who, sit deep and defend and try to counter. We have struggled to, actually break them apart. And as you said, I agree, because recently Barcelona's motto, whether it be from administrative viewpoint or even the managers, people tend to think, oh, more attackers means, more chances and that you're actually playing well. But honestly, it depends on the quality and the ecosystem around the attack. Because you see heavyweight, champion winning teams like Bayern Munich and Liverpool, their midfield is built in a way, is structured in a way that their attack is, it plays off of that, if you know what I mean. And it just benefits, the system is so benefiting that that's how they get the goals, that's how they get the chances, and they do it efficiently. And I think Barca missing.
I definitely do agree in the sense that if you look at the past Champions League winning teams, you can see a recurring topic. Is that, well, Bayern, we know the midfield. You had in Thiago a very brilliant creator. You had a defensive partnership, especially with having Müller pressing and Goretzka winning what he had to win. And then if you look at Liverpool, their midfield was set. They knew what they were doing. Bernardo knew what he was doing. He knew his role. Even if you look at Madrid, the Madrid that won 3 Champions Leagues, the midfield was set. They knew what they had to do. And then you look at Barca and you're like, is that what you have to give? Especially considering the depth that we have, it's quite impressive. So I'd say this is about it for our podcast, and see you next time.
Bye, and thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.
All right.